Chike's hand froze on the gate latch when he saw her. His mother, the woman who had raised him in a pristine home in Lekki Phase 1, who had never let a dish sit unwashed, who wore designer baboos to church every Sunday, was crouched behind a dumpster in the alley beside his apartment building. Her trembling fingers picked through banana peels and crushed takeout containers, searching for something edible. "Mama?" The word came out strangled, barely audible over the Lagos traffic humming 2 streets away. She jerked upright, and the look on her face, shame so raw it seemed to physically wound her, made Chike's stomach drop. This was Adanna Okafor, 62 years old, who had hosted elaborate parties in their Victoria Island home just 5 years ago. Now her wrapper hung loose around her waist, and her hair, usually carefully braided, stuck out in gray tufts beneath a faded headscarf. "Chike, I can explain." But before she could finish, his wife Zainab appeared at their apartment door, 3 floors up. "Chike, your father is on the phone. He wants to know if your mother showed up here begging for money again." The word again hit like a slap. Chike's head snapped between his mother and his wife, his mind struggling to connect the pieces. His father, Chief Emeka Okafor, wealthy businessman, pillar of the community, had told Chike 6 months ago that his mother had gone to stay with relatives in Enugu, that she needed space, that the marriage was having difficulties. Adanna's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't move from beside the dumpster. She clutched something in her palm. Chike realized with horror it was a half-eaten meat pie, still in its wrapper. "How long?" Chike's voice cracked. "How long have you been living like this?" 3 months, she whispered, "since your father kicked me out with nothing but the clothes on my back." Zainab's footsteps echoed down the concrete stairs. She appeared beside them, her face a mixture of pity and something else, something that looked almost like satisfaction. "Chike, your father warned us she'd come here eventually. He said she stole from him, that she's been lying to family members, playing the victim. I never stole anything." Adanna's voice rose, fierce despite her condition. "Your father is a liar, the cheat, the thief who stole 35 years of my life." Chike's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from his father. "Don't give her money. She'll use it for drugs. Your mother has become unstable. This is tough love." But Chike was staring at his mother's hands, the same hands that had braided his hair before school, that had worked 3 jobs to put him through university when his father's business had temporarily failed. These weren't the hands of an addict. They were the hands of a woman who had been destroyed by something or someone. "Mama, what really happened?" Chike asked, his voice barely steady. "Tell me the truth." Adanna looked up at the apartment building, then at Zainab, then back at her son. When she spoke, her words were quiet but cut through the humid Lagos air like a blade. "Your father has another family, another wife, 3 children. They've been living in our family home in Banana Island for 2 years while I've been—" She gestured at the dumpster, her voice breaking. "While I've been trying to survive on the streets of the city I helped him build his empire in." The world tilted sideways. Chike's phone rang again. His father's name flashed on the screen, and suddenly Chike understood why the old man was calling so insistently. Chief Emeka wasn't worried about his ex-wife's well-being. He was worried about his secrets being exposed. Zainab's face had gone pale. "Chike, you don't believe this, do you? Your father said she's been having delusions." But Chike was already reaching for his mother's arm, pulling her toward the building entrance. "Mama, you're coming upstairs. Right now." "Wait." Zainab blocked their path, and something in her expression made Chike's blood run cold. "Chike, there's something you need to know before you bring her into our home." What devastating secret is Zainab hiding? Hit like if you think Chike's father is guilty of this betrayal, and drop a comment telling us what you would do in Chike's position. Don't forget to subscribe to African Echoes for more shocking stories of domestic betrayal and infidelity in African marriages. We post new stories every day. Chike's grip tightened on his mother's arm. "Zainab, whatever you have to say can wait. My mother needs food, water, and a place to sit down." But Zainab didn't move from the doorway. Her eyes darted nervously between Chike and Adanna, and she pulled her phone from her pocket. "Your father, he's been sending us money every month. Extra money. He said it was to help with the baby on the way. But now I'm wondering, He was paying you to keep quiet, Adanna said flatly, pushing past Zainab into the building's dim corridor, to keep me away from my own son. The words hung in the air like smoke from a burning compound. Chike felt his world fracturing with each revelation. His father, the man who had taught him about integrity, who quoted Bible verses about honoring your wife, had been bribing Chike's own spouse to turn against his mother. Inside the modest two-bedroom apartment, Adanna collapsed onto the sofa, her body seeming to fold in on itself. Zainab disappeared into the kitchen without a word, and Chike could hear her moving dishes around with more force than necessary. He knelt beside his mother, really seeing her for the first time. The weight she'd lost, the calluses on her feet visible through worn sandals, the defeat in her eyes that no amount of Lego's hustle could disguise. "Mama, start from the beginning," Chike said softly. "All of it." Adanna's voice was hoarse when she began. 2 years ago, I came home early from a church program. Your father was supposed to be at a business conference in Abuja, but his Range Rover was in the driveway of our Banana Island house, the house I helped him buy with my jewelry business before you were born. She paused, accepting the glass of water Zainab reluctantly brought her. I walked in and heard children laughing upstairs. Children I didn't know. When I went up, I found 3 of them, 2 boys and a girl, ages 7, 5, and 3. They called your father Daddy. Chike's chest tightened. And the woman? Emeka. She's 31. A former employee at your father's company. She was wearing my jewelry. Chike. The gold set my own mother gave me before she died. Adanna's hands shook as she set down the water glass. When your father came home that evening, he didn't apologize. He didn't beg. He told me times had changed, that successful men in Lagos keep second families, and I should be grateful he was willing to let me stay in the boys' quarters. Jesus Christ, Chike breathed. I refused. I told him I'd go to church, tell the pastor, expose him to everyone who respected the Okafor name. Adanna's laugh was bitter. That's when he showed me the documents. What documents? Our house. Both houses, the one in Victoria Island where you grew up and the Banana Island property. They were never my name. The business accounts we built together, all in his name only. Even my jewelry shop, he convinced me years ago to register it under his company for tax purposes. Her voice cracked. I had nothing, Chike. 35 years of marriage, and legally I owned nothing. Zainab had stopped moving in the kitchen. Chike could feel her listening from behind the wall. He gave me 2 choices, Adanna continued. Accept a small monthly allowance and disappear quietly, or he'd use his connections to destroy me. He has friends in the police, in the courts. He said he'd tell everyone I was mentally unstable, that I was stealing from him, and people would believe him, a chief, a respected businessman, over his aging wife. So you took the allowance? For 3 months. Then Emeka convinced him to cut me off completely. She wanted me erased, Chike, like I never existed. Adanna's eyes hardened. That's when I came to you. But Zainab said you were busy with work, that it wasn't a good time. She never told you I'd visited, did she? Chike turned slowly to face the kitchen doorway where Zainab now stood, her arms crossed offensively over her pregnant belly. How much? He asked his wife, his voice dangerously quiet. How much has my father been paying you? 50,000 naira a month, Zainab admitted, lifting her chin. He said your mother was trying to manipulate you, that she'd ruin him financially with her spending, and now wanted to drain our resources too. He said the money was to protect our family. Our family, Chike exploded, standing up. That woman sitting there IS my family. She's the only reason I survived university when Dad's business collapsed. She sold her gold, her wrappers, everything valuable she owned to keep me in school. The apartment fell silent, except for the sound of Lagos traffic filtering through the windows and the neighbor's TV blaring a Nollywood drama through the thin walls. Adanna spoke quietly. There's more, Chike. Things your father doesn't know I discovered. About where his money really comes from. About the people he's betrayed to build his empire. And about Emeka. She's not just some innocent young woman who fell in love with a married man. Chike's phone erupted with notifications. Multiple calls from his father, text messages from numbers he didn't recognize. And then one message that made his blood freeze. Your mother is dangerous. She's threatened my life and my business. I'm filing a police report tonight. If you harbor her, you'll be implicated too. Dad. At that moment, 3 sharp knocks echoed through the apartment. A voice called through the door. Police? Open up. What would you do if you walked in on this kind of family betrayal? Hit like if you think Zainab was wrong to take that money. And comment below where you're watching from. Lagos, Nairobi, Atlanta, London. We want to hear from you. And don't miss what happens when those police officers step inside. This domestic betrayal is about to explode into something even more shocking. The knock came again, louder this time. Nigeria police. We need to speak with Adanna Okafor. Chike's heart hammered against his ribs. His mother's face had gone ashen, her hands gripping the sofa's armrest so tightly her knuckles turned white. Zainab backed toward the bedroom, her hand protectively over her belly, eyes wide with fear. Stay calm, Chike whispered to his mother, then called toward the door. One moment, please. He approached the door slowly, mind racing through possibilities. His father worked fast, too fast, which meant Chief Emeka had anticipated this exact scenario, had probably already filed whatever false report he'd threatened before Adanna even reached Chike's apartment. Through the peephole, Chike saw 2 officers in uniform. One was older, with gray stubble and a bored expression. The younger one looked eager, like he was ready to make an arrest that would impress his superiors. Chike recognized the type. Lagos was full of officers who could be paid to see things a certain way. He opened the door, just wide enough to speak through. Good evening, officers. How can I help you? We're looking for Mrs. Adanna Okafor, the older officer said, pulling out a small notebook. We received a report that she's been harassing Chief Emeka Okafor, making false accusations and attempting to extort money from him. Is she here? That's a lie. Adanna's voice rang out from inside the apartment. She appeared beside Chike, her earlier fragility replaced by a burning fury. I'm the one who should be filing a report. That man stole everything from me. The younger officer moved forward. Madam, we need you to come with us to the station to answer some questions. On what grounds? Chike interrupted, blocking the doorway with his body. Has my mother been formally charged with anything? The older officer's eyes narrowed. Young man, don't make this difficult. Chief Okafor is a respected member of this community. We have statements from multiple witnesses that your mother has been behaving erratically, threatening him and his property. Witnesses he paid. Adanna spat, just like he pays everyone. Mama, please, Chike said softly, then turned back to the officers. My mother isn't going anywhere tonight. If you want to question her, she'll come to the station tomorrow morning with a lawyer present. That's her right. The younger officer's hand moved toward his belt. We can arrest you both for obstruction. Try it. Zainab's voice cut through the tension. She had emerged from the bedroom, phone in hand, recording. Try to illegally arrest them without proper charges. And this video goes straight to Instagram and Twitter. My cousin works at Channels TV. I wonder how Chief Emeka Okafor would like his reputation examined on the evening news. The officers exchanged glances. The older one's jaw tightened, but he stepped back. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. at Morocco Police Station. If she doesn't show, we'll come back with a warrant. They left, their footsteps heavy on the stairs. Chike closed the door and leaned against it, his legs suddenly weak. Zainab was still holding up her phone, and for the first time that evening, something like respect flickered in his eyes when he looked at his wife. Why did you do that? He asked her. Zainab lowered the phone slowly. Because I'm not a monster. Chike, your father's money. I took it because I was scared. We barely make rent some months. The baby is coming. But watching your mother out there, eating from the trash. Her voice broke. No amount of money is worth that shame. No amount of money is worth becoming the kind of person who could let that happen to someone's mother. Adanna studied her daughter-in-law with new eyes. You mentioned you'd been recording things. What else do you have? What do you mean? Your father-in-law calls you often, doesn't he? Adanna's voice took on a sharp, calculating edge that Chike had never heard before. What else has he told you about me? About his business? About Kayamika? Zainab hesitated, then nodded slowly. He talks a lot when he's had whiskey. Sometimes he forgets I'm listening. Last month, he mentioned something about a land deal in Aja, that he'd used forged documents to claim property that belonged to some Igbo families who'd relocated during the war. He laughed about it, said those people were too old now to fight back in court. Chike felt sick. What else? He said Kayamika was smart, that she helped him move money into offshore accounts. Dubai, mostly. That his legal wife was too old-fashioned to understand modern business. Zainab looked at Adanna. He said you were weak, that you'd never survive on your own. He was almost right, Adanna admitted. For 3 months, I believed him. I slept in church pews and abandoned buildings, ate scraps. I wanted to die, Chike, multiple times. I stood at the edge of Third Mainland Bridge and thought about jumping. Mama, but then I met someone, Adanna continued, her voice strengthening. A woman at the market in Balagan where I'd been begging. She recognized me from the old days when I had my jewelry shop. She's a lawyer now. And when I told her everything, she said we could fight back. But I needed evidence. Proof of the bigamy, proof of the financial fraud, proof of everything your father has done. She reached into her worn handbag and pulled out a small USB drive. This contains copies of documents I managed to photograph before he kicked me out. Bank statements, property deeds, emails between him and Kayamika. But I need more. I need current information. Transaction records. Proof that he's still moving money illegally. Chike's mind was reeling. This wasn't just about a cheating husband anymore. This was about fraud, corruption, stolen property. Mama, if what you're saying is true, Dad could go to prison. He deserves to go to prison, Adanna said flatly. But I don't want him in prison, Chike. I want what's mine. The houses, the businesses, my dignity. I want Kayamika out of my home. I want my life back. Zainab's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her face went pale. It's your father. He's asking if the police came. He wants to know if they took your mother. The three of them stared at each other, an unspoken question hanging in the air. Tell him yes, Adanna said suddenly. Tell him they took me to the station. Tell him I was screaming, making threats. Tell him whatever he wants to hear. Why? Chike asked. His mother's smile was cold and calculating. Because tomorrow, while he thinks I'm sitting in a jail cell, I'm going to Banana Island. I'm going into that house, and I'm going to get the rest of the evidence I need. The house staff, most of them worked for me for years. They're loyal to me, not to Kayamika. And your father always kept his most important documents in the safe in his study. That's breaking and entering, Mama. That's illegal. So is bigamy. Adanna shot back. So is financial fraud. So is abandoning your wife of 35 years to die in the streets like a dog. I'm done being the victim in this marriage, Chike. It's time your father learned what it feels like to lose everything. Zainab was already typing a response to Chief Emeka. Her fingers moved quickly, and Chike could see the message taking shape. Police took her. She's at Morocco Station. They said she'll be charged in the morning. She hit send. Within seconds, a reply came through. Good. Let her rot there. Don't visit. Don't send money. This needs to be a lesson. Adanna read the message over Zainab's shoulder, and something in her expression shifted. The brokenness Chike had seen earlier was gone completely now, replaced by a fierce determination that reminded him suddenly of the mother who had fought tooth and nail to build a life for their family decades ago. Tomorrow morning, Adanna said quietly, everything changes, but tonight, I need you both to decide something. Are you with me or are you with your father? Chike looked at Zainab. His wife met his eyes, one hand on her pregnant belly, the other still clutching her phone with his father's cruel message glowing on the screen. We're with you, Chike said finally. Tell us what we need to do. Adanna pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from her bag, a hand-drawn map of the Banana Island house, with notes scribbled in the margins. The security guard changes shifts at 6 a.m. There's a blind spot in the cameras by the back gate. Your father never fixed it because he uses that entrance when he doesn't want Kayamika to know he's coming home late. We'll have maybe 20 minutes before anyone notices we're inside. We, Chike repeated. Mama, you can't go in there alone. If Dad finds out, he won't find out, because you're going to make sure of it. Adanna's eyes glinted with something dangerous. You're going to call your father tomorrow morning. Tell him you want to meet for breakfast. Keep him busy at a restaurant in Victoria Island while I'm at the house. Can you do that? Chike's mouth went dry, lined his father's face, distracted him while his mother essentially robbed his other home. Every part of it felt wrong. But then he remembered the image of his mother crouched beside that dumpster, and the wrongness of that image burned away any hesitation. I can do it, he said. Good. Adanna stood up, suddenly looking stronger than she had in months. Because tomorrow, we're not just getting evidence. We're getting justice. And your father is going to learn that the woman he threw away like trash is about to become his worst nightmare. Outside, thunder rumbled across Lagos, and the first drops of rain began to fall. But inside the apartment, 3 people were planning a revenge that would shake the Okafor family to its very foundations. And they had less than 8 hours to pull it off. The rain hammered against the windows of the Yellow Chili restaurant in Victoria Island as Chike watched his father cut into an expensive steak. Chief Emeka Okafor looked exactly as he always did. Commanding, well-dressed in traditional Ibadah, gold watch glinting under the restaurant's lights. He ate with the confidence of a man who believed he'd already won. I'm glad you called, my son, Chief Emeka said, dabbing his mouth with a napkin. I was worried that woman had poisoned your mind against me. Chike forced his face into a neutral expression, though his coffee tasted like ash in his mouth. I just wanted to understand what really happened. Dad, you raised me to hear both sides of every story. His father's chest puffed with pride. Exactly. You see? This is why you're intelligent. Not like your mother, emotional, irrational, always making scenes. He leaned forward conspiratorially. Between you and me, I think she's been having mental problems for years. The accusations she's making, pure delusion. Chike's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from Zainab. She's inside. 15 minutes. What kind of accusations? Chike asked, keeping his voice steady even as his heart raced. Across town, his mother was breaking into Banana Island house while he sat here, by her time with lies. Chief Emeka waved dismissively. Nonsense about another family, about me stealing from her. The woman never understood business. Chike. When I started making real money, she wanted to hold on to the old ways, joint accounts, her name on everything. But that's not how successful men operate in Lagos. You need flexibility, privacy, protection from liability, protection from your wife, protection from anyone who might claim what isn't theirs. His father's eyes hardened slightly. Your mother contributed to the early business. Yes, but the empire I built, that was my vision, my connections, my risk. She wanted to be comfortable. I made her comfortable. That should have been enough. Another buzz. Kitchen safe open. Found something big. Chike's hand trembled slightly as he set down his coffee cup. The police came last night. Dad, they said you filed a report. I had to. Chief Emeka sighed heavily, the picture of a concerned father. Your mother has become dangerous. She's been calling my business associates, spreading lies. I even heard she went to your apartment, probably filling your head with stories. That's why I increased Zainab's monthly amount. I knew you need extra support if Adanna started her manipulation games. You mean you paid my wife to keep me away from my own mother? The words came out sharper than Chike intended. His father's expression flickered, just for a moment, showing something cold beneath concerned parent facade. I paid your wife to protect my grandchild from stress, Chief Emeka corrected slowly. Your mother was always jealous of my success, Chike. Now she's trying to destroy everything I've built. The police report was necessary. She needs psychiatric help, not encouragement. Chike's phone lit up again. This time it was a photo. His mother standing in an opulent bedroom, holding up a photograph of Chief Emeka with Kayamika and their 3 children, all of them dressed in matching outfits. Clearly a family portrait. Behind them, Chike could see their old Victoria Island house, the one where he'd grown up, his hands clenched into fists under the table. Dad, tell me the truth. Is there another woman? Chief Emeka didn't even blink. Of course not. Your mother's fantasies have gotten worse with age. There's no other family, no secret children, just a lonely woman who can't accept that our marriage ran its course. The lie was so smooth, so practiced, that Chike almost understood how his father had fooled everyone for years. Almost. Another message. Found bank statements. Millions moved to Dubai account in Kayamika's name. Also property deeds. He transferred the Victoria Island house to her last month, getting photos of everything. Chike felt his world tilting. The house where he'd grown up, where his mother had planted roses in the garden and hosted his birthday parties. His father had given away to his mistress. "You look troubled, my son," Chief Emeka observed, signaling for more wine. "Is everything all right with Zainab and the pregnancy?" "Everything's fine," Chike managed. "Actually, better than fine. Zainab's been very informative lately, about a lot of things." Something shifted in his father's expression. Informative. "She mentioned you call her often, that you shared quite a bit about your business dealings." The restaurant suddenly felt very quiet despite the other diners chatting around them. Chief Emeka set down his wine glass carefully, his eyes locked on Chike's face with predatory focus. "What exactly has Zainab been telling you?" Before Chike could answer, his phone rang. Not a text this time, an actual call from Zainab. His stomach dropped. She was supposed to only text unless something went wrong. "Excuse me, Dad. I need to take this." "Chike, wait." But Chike was already standing, phone to his ear, walking toward the restaurant's entrance. Zainab's voice was panicked, rushed. "Chike, your father's driver just showed up at the Banana Island house. Someone must have tipped him off. The security guard is calling Chief Emeka right now." Chike's blood turned to ice. He spun around to see his father already on his own phone, his face darkening with rage as he listened to whoever was on the other end. Their eyes met across the restaurant. Chief Emeka stood slowly, pocketing his phone. When he spoke, his voice carried across the dining room with enough fury to make nearby conversations halt. "You lying bastard. You set me up." Every head in the restaurant turned toward them. "Tell me," Chike said loudly, his own anger finally breaking free. "Which one of us is really the liar, Dad? The man who kept a secret family for years? Who stole from his own wife? Who let the mother of his child starve in the streets?" Gasps rippled through the restaurant. Chief Emeka's carefully constructed reputation was crumbling in real time, and everyone with a phone was suddenly recording. "You have no idea what you've done," his father hissed, advancing toward him. "That woman has turned you against your own blood." "No, Dad. You did that when you chose your mistress over your wife, when you forged documents, when you paid the police to harass an innocent woman." Chike's voice rose with each accusation. "When you threw away the woman who sacrificed everything for you." Chief Emeka lunged forward, but two waiters quickly stepped between them. The entire restaurant was on their feet now, phones out, capturing every moment of the Okafor family's public disgrace. Chike's phone buzzed one final time. A message from his mother, sent from inside the Banana Island house. "Got everything. On my way out. Meet me at the lawyer's office. And Chike, thank you for being the man your father could never be." But then another message came through, this one from an unknown number. "Your mother just made the biggest mistake of her life. Tell her to check the news." See. Chike's hand shook as he opened his browser and searched for breaking news. The top result made his heart stop. Breaking. Adanna Okafor, wife of businessman Chief Emeka Okafor, wanted in connection with arson at Banana Island property. Security footage shows woman matching her description entering property shortly before fire started. The restaurant spun around him. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." But his father was already smiling, a terrible, triumphant smile. "I told you, my son. Your mother is dangerous, and now everyone will know it. What would you do if your own parent was framed for a crime they didn't commit?" Drop a comment with your thoughts on Chief Emeka's revenge. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because what happens next in this domestic betrayal story will leave you speechless. Is Adanna walking into a trap, or does she have one final card to play? Find out in the next chapter. Chike's phone exploded with notifications. News alerts, messages from relatives, missed calls from numbers he didn't recognize. The restaurant buzzed with whispered conversations and a click of phones capturing his horror. But all he could see was a headline. Arson at Banana Island Mansion. Scorned wife sought by police. You set her up? Chike breathed, staring at his father. You knew she was going there. You planned this. Chief Emeka straightened his igbada, his composure returning now that the restaurant crowd had turned from witnesses to his shame into an audience for his vindication. I protected what's mine. Your mother broke into private property. What happened after that? He shrugged elegantly. Who can say? Old houses in Lagos, faulty wiring, so many accidents happen. There was no fire when she texted me 10 minutes ago. Then perhaps she should have left faster. His father's smile was poisonous. Or perhaps she should have accepted the generous allowance I offered and disappeared quietly. But no, she wanted to play games. She wanted revenge. He leaned closer, voice dropping. Now she'll spend the next 10 years in Kirikiri prison, and every newspaper in Lagos will call her exactly what I've always said, a bitter, unstable woman who couldn't accept that her husband moved on. Chike shoved past him, ignoring the waiters calling after him about the unpaid bill, and ran into the Lagos morning. Rain still fell in sheets, turning the streets into rivers of red mud. His hands shook as he called Zainab. Where is she? He demanded when she answered. Where's Mama? I don't know. She's not answering her phone. Chike, the news is saying. I know what the news is saying. It's lies, all lies. He flagged down an Okada, the motorcycle taxi, splashing through puddles. I'm going to Banana Island. Meet me there. Chike, if there's really a fire, the police will be... I don't care. That's my mother. He hung up and shouted the address to the Okada driver, who took off through traffic with the fearlessness Lagos required. Chike's mind raced faster than the motorcycle weaving between cars. His father had orchestrated everything, the police report, the harassment, and now this. Chief Emeka must have had people watching the house, waiting for Adanna to make her move. But how had they started a fire so quickly? Unless there never was a fire. The realization hit Chike like a physical blow. His father didn't need an actual crime. He just needed the accusation. The headline. The security footage of Adanna entering the property shortly before an alleged fire. By the time anyone verified whether a fire actually occurred, the damage to his mother's credibility would be complete. 20 minutes later, the Okada screeched to a halt outside the Banana Island estate gates. Chike threw money at the driver and ran toward the security checkpoint, but what he saw stopped him cold. There was no fire, no smoke, no fire trucks or emergency vehicles. The house stood pristine and undamaged, its white walls gleaming in the rain. But police vehicles lined the circular driveway, and officers were loading someone into the back of a van. Mama! Chike screamed, sprinting toward the van. 2 officers intercepted him, grabbing his arms. Sir, you need to calm down. That's my mother. Let me see her. Through the van's rear window, he caught a glimpse of Adanna. Her hands were cuffed, her clothes soaked through, but her eyes burned with something that looked almost like satisfaction. Chike, she called out before an officer slammed the van door. The USB drive. Check the door cut off her words. The van pulled away, carrying his mother toward Morocco police station, and Chike felt helpless fury rising in his throat. What is she being charged with? He demanded, whirling on the remaining officers. Breaking and entering, attempted arson, destruction of property. One officer recited mechanically. Chief Okafor has filed a formal complaint. She was found inside the residence with stolen documents, and there was no fire. Look at the house. Not even smoke damage. The officer shifted uncomfortably. Security detected accelerants. The suspect was caught before she could. That's impossible. My mother would never. But Chike stopped as another police vehicle pulled up and his father stepped out, flanked by 2 men in expensive suits. Lawyers, probably. Behind them emerged a woman Chike had never seen in person but recognized instantly from the photograph his mother had sent. Kayamiko was even younger than he'd imagined, beautiful, polished, wearing designer clothes that probably cost more than 3 months of Chike's rent. She clutched Chief Emeka's arm like a frightened bird, but her eyes, when they landed on Chike, were hard as stones. "That's him," she said softly to one of the lawyers. "The son. He's been helping her." "Careful what you say, my dear," Chief Emeka murmured to her, but loud enough for Chike to hear. "The boy is confused. His mother has manipulated him." "Don't you dare," Chike snarled, advancing on them. "Don't you dare play victim when you orchestrated this entire thing. There was no fire. You planted evidence." One of the lawyers stepped forward. "Young man, I'd advise you to refrain from making baseless accusations. Your mother was caught red-handed, trespassing on private property. Multiple witnesses can testify. Witnesses you paid, just like you paid the police to harass her, just like you paid my wife to keep me away from her." Chike was shouting now, rainwater streaming down his face, not caring who heard. "My father is a fraud, a bigamist. He's been hiding a second family for years, while his legal wife starved in the streets." Chief Emeka's composure finally cracked. "Get him out of here. He's clearly as unstable as his mother." But before anyone could move, a new voice cut through the chaos. "Actually, I don't think anyone's going anywhere just yet." Everyone turned. A woman in her 50s stood at the estate gates, flanked by two men in sharp suits who were definitely not Chief Emeka's lawyers. She wore traditional wrapper and blouse, her gray locks pulled back, and carried a leather briefcase that looked like it cost a fortune. "Who the hell are you?" Chief Emeka demanded. "Ngozi Okonkwo, senior advocate in Nigeria." The woman replied crisply, walking forward with absolute confidence. "I represent Mrs. Adanna Okafor, and I have several questions about this alleged arson. Started with why the Lagos Fire Service has no record of any emergency calls to this address this morning." One of Chief Emeka's lawyers started to speak, but Ngozi held up a hand. "I also have questions about the bank accounts in Dubai, the forged property deeds, and the rather interesting offshore shell companies registered in your client's name." She pulled out a tablet, swiping through documents, all of which my client managed to photograph before your security team discovered her in the house. Kayamika's face went pale. Chief Emeka's jaw tightened. "Those documents were obtained illegally," his lawyer protested. "They're inadmissible." "Perhaps, but they make for very interesting reading on social media, don't they?" Ngozi smiled coldly. "Especially when combined with recorded phone conversations, witness testimonies from former household staff, and a rather detailed confession from a security guard who's tired of being paid to lie." She turned to the police officers. "I'm formally requesting my client's immediate release. The arson charge is fabricated. There's no fire damage, no evidence of accelerants beyond what may have been planted, and no emergency service records. The breaking and entering charge is questionable given that Mrs. Okafor is still legally married to Chief Okafor and therefore has rights to marital property. As for the theft allegations, one cannot steal what legally belongs to them. She has no legal claim to anything." Chief Emeka roared. "Everything is in my name." "Everything you fraudulently registered in your name, you mean?" Ngozi pulled out another document. "Including property that was purchased using funds from Mrs. Okafor's jewelry business, and the Victoria Island house that was bought before your marriage but somehow ended up solely in your name through what appear to be forged transfer documents." She looked at the police officers. "I believe there are several actual crimes that need investigating here, officers, and none of them were committed by my client." The air crackled with tension. Kayamika whispered urgently in Chief Emeka's ear, but he shook her off, his face thunderous. "You have no idea what you're starting," he said quietly to Ngozi. "I have connections throughout the city. Judges, commissioners, police commissioners. You're making enemies you can't afford." "No, Chief Okafor," Ngozi replied, her voice still wrapped in silk. "You made an enemy you couldn't afford when you threw away a good woman and assumed she'd stay broken. Now, shall we discuss this reasonably, or shall I release everything I have to every major news outlet in Nigeria?" For the first time in Chike's life, he saw a genuine fear flicker across his father's face. Ngozi turned to Chike. "Your mother asked me to tell you something if things went wrong. She said, tell my son that the USB drive isn't the only copy. And tell him I love him more than I love my own safety." Chike's chest tightened with emotion. Pride, fear, love, all tangled together. A phone rang, loud in the tense silence. One of the officers answered, listened, then turned to Chief Emeka with an expression that suggested his day was about to get much worse. "Sir, we just received a complaint from the Aja community elders. They're alleging fraud related to land acquisitions in the 1990s. They say they have documentation proving you used forged deeds to steal property from families displaced during." That's enough. Chief Emeka's control finally shattered completely. This is a conspiracy. A witch hunt. My wife is behind all of this. She's orchestrated everything to destroy me. Actually, a new voice called out, "I think you did that yourself." Zainab appeared, pushing through the growing crowd at the gates. She held up her phone, and her voice rang clear. "I've been recording our conversations for 3 months. Chief Okafor. Every bribe you offered, every lie you told, every cruel thing you said about your wife." She looked at Chike. "I was scared before, but watching what you did to Mama Adanna, I'm not scared anymore. I'm angry." She tapped her phone, and suddenly speakers on her device projected Chief Emeka's voice for everyone to hear. "The woman never understood business. Let her rot in that cell. She's weak. She'll never survive. If she causes problems, we'll make her disappear." The crowd's murmurs grew louder. Phones were recording everything. The pristine reputation Chief Emeka had spent decades building was crumbling in real time. And this time, there were too many witnesses to bribe or threaten into silence. Kayamika suddenly pulled away from Chief Emeka, her face a mask of calculation. "I had no idea about any of this. I was told his wife had abandoned him, that the divorce was already finalized. I'm a victim here, too." "Save it," Ngozi said dismissively. "We have bank statements with your signature, emails discussing the problem of the legal wife, and property transfers you personally witnessed. You're complicit in everything, Miss Kayamika." The young woman's composure cracked, and she did exactly what Chike expected. She turned on Chief Emeka. "This was all your idea. You said she'd never fight back. You said she was too broken. You promised me that house, those businesses." "Shut up." Chief Emeka grabbed her arm, but she wrenched away. "No, I'm not going down for your crimes. I have texts, recordings, everything." Kayamika pulled out her own phone, hand shaking. "I'll cooperate with the investigation. I'll testify. Whatever you need. I'm not losing everything because of him." And just like that, Chief Emeka Okafor's empire began its final collapse. Betrayed by his mistress, exposed by his wife, condemned by his own recorded words. Ngozi nodded to the police officers. "I believe you gentlemen have enough to start a proper investigation now, one that focuses on the actual criminals." The officers looked at each other, then at Chief Emeka, who suddenly looked decades older than he had that morning. "Chief Emeka Okafor," one officer said slowly, "we need you to come to us to answer some questions about multiple allegations of fraud, forgery, and illegal property transfers." As they led his father away, not in handcuffs yet, but with his lawyers frantically making calls, Chike felt Zainab's hand slip into his. "Your mother's strong," she whispered. "Stronger than all of us knew. She survived eating from trash bins," Chike replied, watching the police van that held his mother finally turn around, headed back to release her. "She'll survive this, too." But as the morning sun finally broke through the Lagos rain clouds, casting golden light across the Banana Island mansion that had been both prize and prison, Chike couldn't shake one terrible thought. His father had spent decades building connections in every corner of Lagos power, and men like Chief Emeka Okafor didn't go down without taking everyone they could reach with them. This domestic betrayal just exploded into a full-scale war. Comment below what you think Chief Emeka will do next. Will he accept defeat, or does he have one final move? Hit like if you think Adanna deserves justice, and share this story with anyone who's ever fought back against infidelity and manipulation. Don't forget to subscribe to African Echoes for conclusion of this shocking revenge story. The small law office in the cages smelled of old paper and rain-soaked concrete. Adanna sat wrapped in a borrowed wrapper, her wet clothes replaced, hands finally free of handcuffs. She looked exhausted but unbroken, sipping hot tea that Ngozi's assistant had provided. Chike sat beside her, unable to let go of her hand. "I thought I'd lost you," he whispered for the third time. "You almost did," Adanna admitted. "When those security men grabbed me in the study, when they started shouting about accelerants they'd found in my bag, things I'd never touched, I realized your father was willing to see me in prison for 20 years just to protect his secrets." Ngozi sat across from them, her tablet displaying the treasure trove of evidence Adanna had managed to photograph. "This is substantial. Bank fraud, property fraud, bigamy. The Ajalan case alone could put him away for a decade. But," she paused, her expression grave, "you need to understand what we're up against. Chief Emeka has connections in the judiciary, the police force, even in the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Men like him don't just roll over because they've been exposed." "What are you saying?" Zainab asked from her position by the window, where she'd been watching the street nervously since they arrived. "I'm saying this gets worse before it gets better. Chief Emeka will use every connection, every favor owed, every bribe he can afford to make this go away. And he'll come after all of you, not just Adanna." Ngozi's eyes moved between them. "He'll target your jobs, your reputations, maybe even your safety. I've seen men with less to lose do terrible things when cornered." As if summoning him with their words, Chike's phone rang. His father's name flashed on the screen. "Don't answer it," Adanna said quickly. But Chike's jaw set with determination. "No, I want to hear what he has to say." He put the phone on speaker. "My son." Chief Emeka's voice was eerily calm, no trace of the fury from earlier. "I think it's time we talked. Man to man, father to son. I have nothing to say to you." "Then listen. I know you think I'm the villain in this story, that your mother is some innocent victim. But there are things you don't know, things she hasn't told you." A pause. "Did she mention that she tried to kill me once? 10 years ago. She put rat poison in my food. I survived, obviously, but I kept quiet to protect her, to protect you from knowing what kind of woman." "That's a lie." Adanna's voice cracked. "I never." "Oh, but you did," Chief Emeka continued smoothly. "And I have the hospital records from when I was treated for food poisoning in 2015. Records that could be reinterpreted if needed. Tell me, my son, if your mother faces attempted murder charges, what happens to her credibility? What happens to all her accusations?" The room went silent, except for the rain drumming against the windows. "You wouldn't," Chike breathed, "to protect my freedom? My children, your half-siblings, by the way, who've done nothing wrong." "Yes, Chike, I would do anything." His father's voice hardened. "Here's what's going to happen. Your mother drops all charges, returns all documents, signs a statement saying she fabricated everything due to mental illness. In return, I don't press charges for the arson attempt. I don't pursue the attempted murder angle, and I'll even give her a small settlement. 2 million naira and a flat in Suralere. Not much, but enough to survive." 2 million naira? Adanna laughed bitterly. "After 35 years of marriage? After helping you build an empire worth hundreds of millions? Take it or leave it, Adanna, because the alternative is watching your son and his pregnant wife lose everything. I know the landlord of your apartment building, Chike. One phone call and you're evicted. I know the director at your firm. You'll be unemployed by Monday. I know people at every hospital in Lagos. Good luck finding one that will deliver your child without demanding payment up front that you can't afford." Zainab's hand flew to her belly, her face draining of color. "And you, my dear wife," Chief Emeka's voice dripped with poison, "will spend whatever years you left fighting charges in a legal system I paid into for decades. Even if you win eventually, and that's a big if, you'll be elderly, broken, and penniless by the time it's over. Is that really what you want? To destroy your son's future for the sake of revenge?" Chike watched his mother's face crumble, watched the warrior woman from an hour ago dissolve back into the desperate, defeated person he'd found eating from the trash. His father knew exactly where to strike, not at Adanna's pride or dignity, but at her love for her child. "Mama, don't," Chike said urgently. "We'll figure it out. We'll fight. With what money?" Adanna whispered. "With what lawyers? Ngozi is helping us now. but this could drag on for years. Your baby will be born into poverty because of my fight. You'll lose your home, your job, everything. Tears streamed down her face. What kind of mother am I if I let that happen? The kind who deserves justice. Zainab surprised everyone by shouting. The kind who shouldn't have to choose between her dignity and her son's future. That man put you in an impossible situation. He always does. That's how men like him win. Then maybe he's already won. Adanna said quietly, reaching for phone. Chief Emeka, I accept your terms. No. Chike tried to grab the phone, but his mother held it away. Smart choice, his father said, satisfaction thick in his voice. My lawyers will draw up the paperwork. You'll sign it tomorrow in front of witnesses. And Adanna, if you ever speak publicly about any of this again, the offer disappears and the charges come back. Understood? Understood. The line went dead. The law office erupted. Ngozi was on her feet, arguing that they couldn't give up now, that they had evidence that justice was possible. Zainab was crying, apologizing for not being stronger, for taking the bribe money in the first place. Chike felt like the floor had dropped out from under him, but Adanna sat perfectly still, staring at the phone in her hand with an expression that didn't match defeat at all. Mama? Chike asked carefully. Are you all right? She looked up at him, and there was that fierce light in her eyes again, the one that had kept her alive through 3 months on the streets, that had given her courage to break into her former home, that had survived 35 years married to a predator. I just remembered something, she said softly. Something Kayamika said this morning when she was panicking. She said she had texts and recordings of her own, evidence of things even I don't know about. Ngozi stopped mid-argument. So your father just made a mistake, Adanna said, her voice gaining strength. He threatened my son, my grandchild, and that changes everything. Not for me, but for Kayamika, because that young woman, she has 3 children with your father. Children he'll throw away the second they become inconvenient, just like he did with me. Understanding dawned on Chike's face. You're going to turn her. I'm going to offer her something your father never will. The truth about what happens to the women he claims to love. Adanna stood up, squaring her shoulders. He thinks I'll sign those papers tomorrow? Let him think that. Let him believe he's won. But tonight, I'm going to visit Kayamika. And I'm going to show her exactly what her future looks like if she stays loyal to Chief Emeka Okafor. That's risky, Ngozi warned. Very risky. If your husband finds out, let him find out. I'm done being afraid. Adanna turned to Chike. Your father taught me one thing in 35 years. The only way to beat a powerful man is to take away the thing he needs most. And right now, what he needs most is Kayamika's silence. Zainab wiped her eyes. How do we find her? I already know where she is, Adanna said with a small, grim smile. Kayamika has a sister who works at the salon I used to go to in Ikoyi. That girl never liked what Kayamika did to me. Stole another woman's husband. She'll help us. The plan was insane. Everything about it could go wrong. But as Chike looked at his mother, really looked at her, saw the woman who had clawed her way back from the edge of destruction, he realized she wasn't the same person his father had broken and discarded. She was something more dangerous. She was a woman with nothing left to lose. When do we go? Chike asked. Tonight, before your father has time to solidify his victory, before Kayamika has time to convince herself that betraying him was a mistake. Adanna checked the time on the office clock. It's 4 p.m. now. Kayamika will be home with the children. Chief Emeka will be at the police station for hours, giving statements. We have a window. And if she refuses to help? Zainab asked. Then I sign those papers tomorrow, take the 2 million naira, and disappear into Surulere knowing I tried everything. Adanna's voice was steady. But I don't think she'll refuse. Because when I show her the truth about your father, really show her, not just the financial crimes or the pattern, the history, the way he destroys women, she'll understand that she's not his partner. She's his next victim. Ngozi gathered her files, her expression shifting from concern to calculating. If you can get Kayamika's testimony and her evidence, combined with what we already have, we could build a case even Chief Emeka's connections can't stop. But You need to understand, once you do this, there's no going back. He'll know you played him, and he'll retaliate with everything he has. Good, Adanna said simply. Let him try. I've already survived the worst thing he could do to me. Everything after this. She smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Everything after this is just details. As the sun set over Lagos, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, for people left the law office with a plan that was either brilliant or suicidal. Probably both. But as they drove through the evening traffic toward Ikoyi, toward the confrontation that would determine everyone's future, Chike understood one thing with crystal clarity. His mother hadn't just survived her husband's betrayal. She'd been transformed by it, and the woman sitting beside him now, planning her next move with cold precision, was someone his father should have been terrified of from the beginning, because hell hath no fury like a woman who's already lost everything and discovered she's still standing. The tables are turning. Do you think Kayamika will betray Chief Emeka, or will she stay loyal to the man who might destroy her too? Drop a comment with your prediction. And don't forget to like and share this story, because the final chapter is going to blow your mind. What happens when two wronged women join forces against one powerful man? Find out next. The apartment complex in Ikoyi was everything Adanna's life had been before Chief Emeka stole it. Luxury cars in the parking lot, security guards in crisp uniforms, landscape gardens with fountains. Chike could see his mother's hands trembling as they approached, though her face remained calm. That used to be my life, she murmured, staring up at the building. I chose fabrics for those curtains. I knew the security guards' children's names. And now I'm sneaking like a criminal to confront the woman living my life. She's not living your life, Mama, Zainab said firmly. She's living a lie, just like you did. And you're about to set her free. Adanna's contact, Kayamika's sister Ifeoma, met them at the service entrance. She was younger, maybe 25, with elaborate braids and nervous energy that radiated off her like heat. My sister doesn't know I'm helping you, Ifeoma said quickly, glancing around. But I've watched what that man did to you, Mama Adanna, and I've watched what he's doing to Kayamika. She's not happy. She pretends, but I see it. The way he controls her, monitors her phone, tells her what to wear, who to see. It's like watching someone drown slowly. Will she talk to me? Adanna asked. I don't know, but she's alone with the children right now. Chief Emeka went to meet with his lawyers. He won't be back until late. Ifeoma pulled out a key. I clean the apartment twice a week. I can get you in, but after that, you're on your own. The apartment was exactly as Adanna remembered. Her furniture, her artwork, her taste in everything from the throw pillows to the arrangement of family photos. Except the photos were different now. Kayamika's children smiled from frames that had once held Chike's childhood pictures. They found Kayamika in the kitchen, preparing dinner while her youngest child, a 3-year-old girl, played with plastic cups on the floor. She froze when she saw them, her hand tightening on the knife she'd been using to cut vegetables. What are you doing in my home? Kayamika's voice was sharp, but Chike could hear the fear underneath. You're home. Adanna's laugh was soft and bitter. I chose the marble for these countertops. I planted the roses you can see through that window. This was my home for 23 years before your lover stole it and gave it to you. Get out, or I'll call the police. Go ahead, Adanna said calmly, stepping further into the kitchen. Call them. Tell them the legal wife of Chief Emeka Okafor is in property that's rightfully hers. See how fast they come to arrest me when the newspapers already have photos of you and your children with a married man. Kayamika's hand shook. The little girl looked between them, sensing the tension even if she couldn't understand it. I'm not here to hurt you, Adanna continued, her voice gentling. I'm here to show you your future. Because right now you think you've won. You think you're special, different from me, better than me. You think Chief Emeka loves you more than he loved me. He does love me, Kayamika insisted, but her voice wavered. You were cold, demanding. He told me. Let me guess. He told you I didn't understand him? That I was traditional, boring, couldn't keep up with his vision. Adanna moved closer. Did he tell you that you were exciting, modern, That you made him feel young again? That with you, he could be his true self. Kayamika's face went pale. He told me the same things, Adanna said quietly, 35 years ago, when I was 27, and he convinced me to leave my parents' house without a proper wedding because traditional ceremonies were just for show. When he promised me we'd register everything jointly, but then told me it was smarter for business if it was in his name only. When he said children didn't need inheritance plans because we'd always be together. She held up her phone, showing Kayamika the bank statements, the property transfers. Do you know what I found in his study this morning? Documents transfer in Victoria Island House, the one you're standing in right now, solely into your name, dated last month. Kayamika blinked, confused. That's good, isn't it? He's securing my future. No, sweetheart. He's protecting his assets from seizure when the fraud charges hit. If his properties are in your name, he can claim he has nothing when they come to collect his debts. Adanna's voice was almost pitying now. And when that happens, when the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission comes knocking, when the Aja families sue, when the offshore account gets frozen, do you know who goes to prison? Understanding dawned slowly across Kayamika's face. No. You, Adanna confirmed, because your name is on everything. You'll be the one who can't prove the money came from legitimate sources. You'll be the one charged with receiving stolen property, money laundering, fraud. And Chief Emeka? She laughed without humor. He'll find a third woman to comfort him through the tragedy of losing his business partner to legal troubles. Kayamika sank into a chair, the knife forgotten on the counter. Her child toddled over, wrapping small arms around her mother's legs. I have 3 children with him, Kayamika whispered. 3 children he promised to care for. He said when his divorce from you was final, we'd get married properly. He said, There is no divorce, Adanna interrupted. I never signed papers. Under Nigerian law, we're still married, which means every promise he made you, every wife title, every property transfer, every shared account is legally fraudulent. And your children? Her voice softened with genuine sympathy. Your children have no legal protection, no inheritance rights, no claim to anything if something happens to their father. Tears began rolling down Kayamika's face. Why are you telling me this? Because this morning, when everything fell apart, you tried to save yourself by offering to testify against him. That took courage. That took clarity. Adanna knelt beside Kayamika's chair, forcing the younger woman to meet her eyes. I'm not your enemy. Chief Emeka Okafor is. He's both of our enemies. And the only way either of us survives this is if we work together. How? Kayamika's voice broke. He controls everything. The money, the lawyers, the police connections. But you have something he can't control, Zainab interjected, stepping forward. You have evidence. Texts, emails, recordings. You said so yourself this morning. Things even Mama Adanna doesn't know about. Kayamika looked at them. This strange coalition of women her lover had wronged, and something shifted in her expression. The defensive anger drained away, replaced by exhausted resignation. I kept copies of everything, she admitted quietly. Every offshore transfer, every fake invoice, every bribe he paid to get contracts. I knew, somewhere deep down, I always knew this day might come, that he might do to me what he did to you. She stood up, walked to a cabinet, and pulled out a small envelope hidden behind kitchen towels. Inside was another USB drive. There's more here than just fraud, Kayamika said, her voice steadying. There's evidence of bribes to government officials, fake contracts, stolen land, things that could bring down people much bigger than Chief Emeka. If this gets out, she looked at Adanna, we'll both be in danger. Everyone will be. Then we make sure it gets out properly, Ngozi said, speaking for the first time since they'd entered. She'd been standing quietly by the door, assessing Kayamika. We go to the EFCC directly, with legal protection in place. We coordinate with the press, so the story breaks everywhere at once. Too big to bury, too public to threaten away. And we do it tomorrow, before Chief Emeka realizes what's happening. Tomorrow, Kayamika's eyes widened. That's too fast. Tomorrow is perfect, Adanna countered. Because tomorrow, I'm supposed to sign papers saying I fabricated everything. Your lover expects me broken and desperate. He won't be watching for an attack. He'll be celebrating his victory. Chike watched the two women, his father's first family and second family, separated by decades and circumstances, but united now by betrayal, come to a silent understanding. My children, Emeka said finally, if I do this, I need guarantees they'll be protected, that they won't lose everything because of their father's crimes. Your children are innocent, Adanna agreed. We'll make sure any settlement includes provisions for them. I'm not trying to hurt babies, Emeka. I'm trying to stop a man who's hurt all of us. The little girl tugged on her mother's wrapper, whining for attention. Emeka picked her up, holding her close, and Chike saw something break open in the young woman's face. The final wall of denial crumbling. Okay, Emeka whispered. I'll testify. I'll give you everything. But we do this smart, and we do this safe. Agreed. Ngozi said, already pulling out her phone. I'm calling my contact at the EFCC now. We'll meet at their office first thing tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., before the city wakes up, before Chief Emeka has time to mobilize his connections. As they planned into the evening, mapping out testimonies, organizing evidence, preparing for the storm that would break over Lagos tomorrow, Chike watched his mother transform once more, not into the defeated woman eating from trash, not even into the angry woman seeking revenge, but into something new entirely, a survivor who'd learned that justice wasn't about destroying your enemy. It was about refusing to let them destroy you. 6 months later, the courtroom in Lagos High Court was packed beyond capacity. Journalists lined the walls, cameras ready. The Aja community elders sat in the front row, flanked by their lawyers. And at the prosecutor's table sat two women who, by all logic, should have been enemies, Emeka Okafor and Emeka Nwosu. Chief Emeka Okafor stood before the judge, his expensive agbada replaced by prisoner's clothing, his confident swagger broken by 6 months in a Ikoyi prison awaiting trial. The charges read like a crime novel: fraud, forgery, money laundering, bribery of public officials, theft of communal property, and bigamy. On the count of fraud in the first degree, how you find? The judge asked the jury. Guilty, Your Honor. On the count of money laundering. Guilty. Each verdict landed like a hammer blow. Chike sat between his mother and his wife, who held their 2-month-old son, Chinidu, and watched his father's empire crumble into legal dust. When the sentencing came, 15 years in prison, asset forfeiture, and substantial restitution payments, Chief Emeka finally broke. He turned to look at Adanna, and the rage in his eyes was murderous. You destroyed me, he hissed. You destroyed everything I built. Adanna stood slowly, her new wrapper, purchased with money from the settlement she and Emeka had negotiated, rustling softly. She walked to the barrier separating them and looked her husband of 35 years in the eye. No, Emeka, she said clearly, loudly enough for the entire courtroom to hear. You destroyed yourself. I just refuse to die quietly in the ruins you left behind. As the guards led him away, still shouting threats and curses, Adanna turned to find Emeka, waited with her 3 children. The 2 women embraced, not as friends exactly, but as warriors who survived the same battlefield. What will you do now? Emeka asked. I'm reopening my jewelry business, Adanna said. In Surulere, where I can afford the rent. Small at first, but mine, legally, completely mine. She looked at Emeka. And you? School, Emeka admitted. I never finished my degree. I'm going back to study law. So my children never have to depend on a man who can take everything away. She smiled shakily. And so no other woman ends up like us. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed them, shouting questions about domestic betrayal, infidelity in marriage, and how 2 women had brought down one of Lagos's most powerful men. Adanna answered some, deflected others, and finally held up her hand for silence. This isn't a story about revenge, she said into the cameras, knowing her words would spread across Nigeria and beyond, reaching other women trapped in situations like hers had been. This is a story about refusing to accept that your life is over because a powerful man says it is. It's about finding strength in the worst moments and allies in the unlikeliest places. She looked at Kayamika, then at Chike and Zainab and baby Chinidu. It's about family, not the family you're born into or even the family you marry into, but the family you build when everything else falls apart. That's the family that matters. That's the family that lasts. The reporters kept shouting questions, but Adanna was done. She walked down the courthouse steps with her head high, surrounded by the people who'd helped her climb out of that alley where Chike had found her eating from trash 6 months ago. She'd lost her houses, her old life, her comfortable existence. But she'd gained something more valuable, her dignity, her freedom, and the knowledge that she'd survived the unsurvivable. And in Lagos, where domestic betrayal and cheating spouses and co-parenting conflicts played out in countless homes every day, Adanna Okafor's story became legend. Not because she destroyed her husband, but because she refused to let him destroy her. 6 months after eating from a dumpster, she was free. And that was sweeter than any revenge could ever be. The end. What an incredible journey. From finding his mother eating from the trash to watching justice finally served. This story of domestic betrayal, infidelity, and ultimate revenge shows that no matter how powerful the enemy, truth and courage can prevail. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and share it with every woman who needs to hear that it's never too late to fight back. Subscribe to African Echoes for more emotional, gripping stories about African marriage drama, cheating spouses, and the strength of women who refuse to stay broken. Comment below what was the most shocking moment for you. And where are you watching from? Lagos, Accra, Nairobi, or somewhere in the diaspora? Let's build a community of survivors and supporters. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Until then, remember, you are stronger than your worst day, and your story isn't over until you say it is. Peace and power to you all.